Welcome to the MuseCast, where we squeeze every last drop of inspiration out of Sunday's sermon.
Welcome to the MuseCast. Happy Tuesday, everyone. I'm Shawna Boren. That's Dan Kent. He's got his vacation hat. He's ready to go. He just posted his haiku for the week. So Dan is set to head out to some much needed better weather and a little bit of relaxation, although you will still be working.
I will be working, yeah.
Not really a vacation, just nicer weather.
That's right, which is key for mental health. So
yes, it is. It truly is. Dan, really quickly, I think we need the high five cam because I need to give you a high five for closing us out on Sunday. So tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, ready?
Go high five. We have to get that perfected. It's not quite right yet. We gotta. It's a little clumsy still. I always make fun of Barbara. I make fun of Barbara because she does a Milwaukee high five, which you never know.
Okay, what is that?
You never know where that hand is going to go. I mean, it could hit your hand, it could hit your forehead, it could hit you in the gut. I mean, it's just there. I don't know.
It's just forever.
I don't know if it's their education system here in Milwaukee. I don't know.
Yes.
But yeah.
Much to consider. I literally just saw this post on social. This guy was like, I'm gonna walk around just in a random store, like a Walmart or Target or something, and I'm gonna hold up my hand to try to high five someone, and the first person who actually high fives me back is gonna get $500 cash. And so a bunch of people were just just kind of giving him the nod. I don't know if it's COVID or whatever. They didn't want to high five him, but this one dude is like, all right, and just high fived him. And then he's like, oh, you win the $500. And dude was like, get away from me. And then he's like, no, really, you win $500. Here it is. So that was kind of cool.
That's funny.
So be ready to high five folks.
That's right. Well, hey, I got a question for you.
Okay. I think I might be ready.
Well, I because I was preparing for the sermon, I spent Christmas Day with my mom, and Barbara was down here with her family, and but with my mom, we just went to had a dinner together and watched some Christmas movies, and I didn't really get to have any Christmas cookies until today. Today I finally got some Christmas cookies. So I'm wondering, what is your favorite Christmas cookie?
Ooh, okay. So we've talked about this. I'm not huge on the sweets. I go more savory, salty. However, I do like a good cookie that incorporates toffee. I love that toffee crunch. And there's not any one in particular. You could have a butter cookie and stick a thing of toffee on top and I'm going to be happy. You could do a sugar cookie. As long as it has some kind of toffee in it, I'm a happy person. How about you? Do you have a favorite Christmas cookie or are you equal opportunity?
No, I have a favorite. I definitely like the cookie with the Hershey Kiss in the middle on top.
Yes, you
those
do.
Those are because it's not only is it a cookie, but it's this three-dimensional experience. It's an architectural feat. It's kind of like a little boat with a little Hershey Kiss on top, and it's just that's my favorite. I like that.
Nice. I do like that because you kind of get the chocolate, and then you get some of the cookie, and then depending on what else is involved, that's a good mixture. My question for you, Dan, is at what point does it do you say, okay, holidays are over, time to hunker down and get back to my dates and brand and all those lovely things that you eat? When does that happen for you?
Tomorrow morning. So
okay, so on the drive, you're gonna hunker down.
Yeah, well, driving is a little hard, but driving is tough to eat well and stuff. But that's definitely having a car full of carrots and grapes that helps. So that's key. So
anybody want to ride with Dan? You'll get some carrots and grapes.
Yeah,
Yum.
It's not as fun as it used to be, I tell you. So
I foolishly thought, this year Christmas is a little, it's on Saturday. That means really on Monday, I can kind of start to get back on track and, detox from all this stuff. And then when Monday rolled around, I was like, are you kidding me? It's still a holiday.
Yeah.
Let's save that for January or possibly February, maybe even March. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
It's
All
tough.
right. Well, this is the last MuseCast of 2021, right?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a double header.
Wow. It's a double header. We're doing a twofer. We're going to briefly put a bow, wrap up the Matriarchs of Christmas, because Greg finished out that series for us on Christmas Eve by talking about the matriarch of matriarchs, Mary. And then we got this like just special extra, like I like to say, bow on top to end out our year with Dan talking to us about Beyond the Mirror. Was that what?
Yeah,
Beyond?
I think that's what we called it.
Right?
Yeah. I was gonna say like through the glass or through the looking glass or something like that, but it's all kind of the same idea. So
yeah, I like it. Okay, so you want to do, let's button up matriarchs first, and then let's spend our time on, well, really, the real sermon of the year, beyond the mirror.
Of course, yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I'll do the summary for the Christmas Eve service, which I'm really excited about that one too, because I really liked this Christmas series. It really it came together so well, and Greg is I think I even said this on Sunday, but he brings it every week. I mean, he's always got like a great word, and like, we all, this was like a big team effort, this series. We had a lot of people involved with just coming up with ideas and things that we should consider, and Greg still like brought it in a direction that like we didn't even anticipate, and so it was just wonderful. But what we've been talking about is what role do the women of Jesus's genealogy play in God's story, and why are they in the genealogy? Because not all the women, in Jesus's genealogy are mentioned there, but these ones are. So we looked at why that is, and so we got to like dig into the stories of, Rahab and Ruth and Tamar, and we didn't really get into Bathsheba, but we would have if we had another week. And then Greg closed it out on Monday with Mary, and with the Mary story, Greg was looking at Mary's courage, and just like the courage that it took for this young girl to kind of go through with this pregnancy, this sort of kind of, what would you say? It's like, what's it called when you have like it's not a controversial, it's like this potentially controversial sort of thing that she was experiencing, and she decided to go through with it. And that took a lot of bravery on her part. And then, with this promise from God that she was going to be the mother of this Messiah, it didn't look like it. There were so many times when this does not look like what I was promised. And, when, for instance, the whole village, the whole town was warning Mary that her son is insane. He's crazy. And she thought that he was crazy, and his brothers thought that he was crazy. And so it took a lot of courage for her to, persist through that type of kind of, narrative that this didn't fit the narrative that she was anticipating. And then, of course, what's more challenging than having your son, who is the supposed Messiah, being crucified, and Mary is sitting there and enduring that with her son, and just the courage and bravery that it took for her to do that. But then the payoff was the resurrection, and she was there for that as well. She was able to stick through that whole story all the way to the glorious end. And Greg just kind of talked about how the promises of God and having faith in God, it's not easy. I mean, you can't expect it to go smoothly. In fact, you have to expect the opposite. You have to assume really that there's going to be a lot of challenges, and it's not going to seem right. It's not going to seem true at first, or for a while, or for stretches. And it's going to seem, sorry, I'm not at home, so I have other noises that I'm not used to here. So yeah, and so just kind of that we can't expect faith to be smooth sailing all the time. Sometimes it's going to be, it's not going to look right, and you have to have bravery, and you have to have courage to stick through it. And so I thought it was just a great way to wrap up the series. And boy, I tell you, there's a lot of times when faith doesn't seem, I mean, do I really believe this? And is this really true? And it takes, you have to have courage and bravery to stick with it, and in the face of a world that in the face of a world that looks so ungodly sometimes, to believe that there is God there and God is present, even though God may seem very absent at times.
Yeah.
So that's the summary. What did you think of it?
Yeah, I really, so this is what I appreciated, not only just about this particular sermon, but the entire series is, and I've said this before, the lens through which we looked at the Christmas story, like looking at it through the lens of these women and really diving into what it meant in their particular time period and their particular space in the world and time. And all that led up to Jesus coming. And so many times, and I'm not blaming anyone for this, but so many times we hear the Christmas story. Maybe I should say I hear the Christmas story and I think, wow, Mary, that was brave. I was about to say ballsy. It wasn't ballsy. It was brave. That's a much better word. Wow, that was really brave. But I feel like this time on Friday when Greg was sharing, I got like a glimpse of, it wasn't just brave of her one time, when she was visited and told, hey, this is what's going to happen to you. And her responding, yes, that was all like incredible bravery. As a woman, as a mom, I can't imagine it, at her age and place in life. I can't imagine that. That was bravery. But then like what Greg took us through the journey of Mary as mother, the amount of times that she had to show up as this young man's mom in a brave space is just astounding to me. The amount of times that she had to not just say, not my will, but yours be done, and just, okay, whatever, be it unto me, Lord. The amount of times, she didn't just say that once, maybe verbally she did, but like over and again, when she saw all the things that Jesus was doing and experiencing and going through and all the things that you said that people were saying about him, and then the coup against him and the attacks and the literal, murder of him. It's just like the amount of times that she had to just trust God and be brave in those moments is really astounding to me. And that really came to life for me through this sermon and through this series, unlike ever before. I think before I just always thought of it as the one time, okay, yep, get me pregnant and let's go. But it wasn't just that. I mean, wow, to be the mother of Jesus throughout the phases of his journey on earth would have been heart-wrenching. Yeah. But thankfully, like you said, and like Greg said, through the pain, she was faithful, and then she was a part of the promise for the future. And that was really, really cool. And I love because all the things that we've been saying that Jesus came to do, all the things that we've been saying that he came to turn upside down, are still things that we're dealing with literally today. As we're closing out 2021, about to go to 22, we're still dealing with, racism and hatred and misogyny and classism and all the stuff that is not God's ideal for his people or for his kingdom. And so where we have to hang on to hope and faith and just say, be it unto me, Lord, just like we need to continue to show up in brave spaces and trust that while we're not fully seeing God's revelation, that God is here with us. And so I feel like there's a million different pathways we could still go with this, but we do have a time limit. And I do also want to get to your sermon. So those are just some of my rambling thoughts about the Matriarchs of Christmas and good news for Mary.
Yeah. Yeah, that's well said. I agree. The only thing I would add to close off the Matriarchs is that I think it's a good point about the bravery piece. And really, you see that bravery in all of the women in all of those different stories. There's this they're all models of courage in the face of oppression and in the face of kind of powers greater than them. They're all kind of David and Goliath stories, but instead of David, it's Rahab and Ruth and so forth. So yeah.
Incredible. So let's turn the page. That was me turning the page. Good job. And now we're here. It's Sunday, and Dan Kent is going to talk to us about our image of God and parenting styles. And so foundational, so good. So Dan, give us your own summary, or let me give you a choice. You can give us your own summary, or you can start us off by just talking about what we didn't get to hear because you had to leave something out, or what you wanted to expand upon, because that always happens.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially with this one. I'll just do a quick summary.
Okay.
That really what I talked about on Sunday. And first of all, I was really impressed with how many people were there, given that it was the day after Christmas. I thought there was going to be tumbleweeds, so that was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just basically said I looked at a researcher by the name of Diana Baumrind, and she kind of talked about parenting styles, and she kind of outlined 3 rough parenting styles. One of them is called authoritarian parenting, and that's where you have a lot of rules, and your affection toward your kids a lot of times is dependent on performance to rules and expectations. The opposite of that would be a permissive parent who has very few rules, very few expectations. And then sort of the healthy parent would be a parent who has some rules, but they're different in nature because they're not top down like authoritarian. They're kind of more collaborative with the kid to help the kid and the parents all live how they want to live and be who they want to be. And so they're just very different parenting models. And what I argued is that the God of Scripture, when you look at how God is described, it's very consistent with this sort of healthy parenting, this healthy guidance, healthy shepherding kind of model. And the reason why all that is important is because, we have a tendency to project things. When we think of God, we tend to project from our own experiences, our own assumptions. And so looking at models like this can help us sort of detect when we're projecting things versus when we're actually seeing God as God is. And so that's kind of the power of thinking this way. And so then I applied this model to faith. And I think that some people can have a very authoritarian view of God where they think God is just all about rules, and that in order to be loved, you have to meet the expectations, and that God is present, but he's present as a judge, not as someone who loves us or anything like that. And then or you could have a permissive view of God where the rules aren't that important and religion's not that important. All that matters is that you're forgiven and grace. And so that would be more permissive view. And what I argued is that a model like this can show you that, look, if you have a permissive view of God, you kind of know which direction you should go. You need to lean more into the importance of God's commands and the importance of Christ's teachings on how we are to live, and that the rules and the commands are there as one of the ways that God loves us. And then if you're in an authoritarian view of God, if that's how you view God, then the path it kind of illuminates that you need to live more into God's grace and into God's kind of mercy, and that God loves us with an unconditional love, and you don't need to perform to be loved by God, and so forth. And so that's sort of the gist of it. And then I have a few things that I had to cut out that I'd like to share also. But overall, though, what was your reaction? Like I've never preached this before, so I don't know how it would land with people.
So I'm always fascinated when you get to bring out your psychologist slash what was your double major? I'm sorry.
Oh, philosophy.
Just left me. Yeah. Yes, your philosophy slash psychology hat. I always love when I get to hear this from you, because to me, it's so rubber meets the road. It's so like boots on the ground. And I really believe, and like you said, this is one of our core theology. This is one of our core teachings. It's like this picture of God is so integral to so much of our faith. And I think it's one thing, and it's very freeing when people finally realize that and get that. And like when they realize maybe their picture of God hasn't been the most healthy for a variety of reasons. And they begin to see God as he is revealed in Jesus. But I feel like, again, it's just like we were saying with Mary having to consistently show up. Like we have to consistently show up and make sure that we aren't playing those old tapes, and that we are always like reorienting ourselves to the true picture of God, because it's something that we can know. It's something that can bring us freedom, but also it's so easy to fall back into just some old mindsets, Yeah. I love the freedom that personally I have received from reframing my picture of God. And I would say it's more of a mixture of now, the permissive and the healthy, I think is what you called you called it. I feel like that's more how I see God, but I easily find myself at times slipping into mentally like, oh, this happened because I did this or didn't do this. And so that authoritative God like kind of slips back in. And what I loved what you did was it caused me to say, let me be my own projection detector and see what it is that I am espousing to God that isn't really his true character or nature. And so it was a really good reminder. Thank you for that. It's interesting too, because as a parent, I think, well, this is the kind of parent I think I am. And I'm curious to talk with the kids. I wanted them to absorb it and not answer me right away, but I'm curious to see how they perceive the kind of parent I am. And if that does help them with their God picture. Not that I'm trying to say I'm God, but a lot of times that's how we do. Like when we say God as father or mother, like the lens through which we see that is our own experience with parental figures in our life. And so again, so many things that we could go down, but I'm curious to hear. So I want to say thank you. It was a great reminder. And also it immediately was like, Shawna, you have to keep doing this and reminding yourself of this, because you can easily just slip back into the way we used to think of God before. And I think that's important for folks to remember. So that being said, I want to hear what you had to leave out. Oh,
the first thing I had to leave out, which I was totally bummed about, is that it serves as a really cool Bible study. But you can look at the first 3 kings of Israel. So you have Saul, and this would be in 2 Samuel is where this first and 2 Samuel is where this all starts. But the first king of Israel is Saul, then David, and then Solomon are the first 3 kings. And you have there this perfect kind of example of each of these views of God. With Saul, you have a very authoritarian view of God, where Saul, he absolutely was dependent on authority. He could not make his own decisions. He always needed some authority to make the decisions. So then when he was the authority, he was totally uncomfortable with that, even to the point when they were announcing him as the new king, they couldn't find him. They had to look for him, and he was hiding in a pile of luggage, because that's how much he did not want to be the authority. He needed authority. And you see this, like when God gives him a special, just for you, Saul, command, he can't handle that. And he fails, and he doesn't even follow through on it. But he thinks that's okay, because the rules say that if you screw up, well, then you just go make a sacrifice and it's okay. And so that's what the rules say. I'm good because I'm following the rules. And that's where God says, do I delight in burnt offerings? No, I gave you a special command. And so you have that. And then on the other end, you have Solomon, who is exact opposite. He loved being the king. And he, when God gave him a special command, goodness, he goes on and on and on about how wonderful this temple is that he was given this special command to create. But then the general rules, he's like, those are just rules. That's just religion. That's no big deal. So things like marrying women from other faiths, other religions, and foreign wives, and he's like, those are just rules, no big deal. And so very opposite of Saul. And then David, of course, I would argue, had a more of a healthier view of God. Even when David made massive mistakes, like with Bathsheba, he demonstrated, I think, this authentic repentance and so forth. So it's a really good study that I had to leave out, but I encourage people to look more into that. The other thing that I keep coming back to, and there's so many different applications of this, but the relationship to authority, I think is so big. And you have Barbara was just asking this morning, like whether or not ages of time, or zeitgeists or current cultural timeframes can have a more authoritarian or more permissive kind of feels to them. And I think absolutely it can. And like in the 40s and 50s, there was a strong role of authority and authoritarianism, and there was this sense in which there was this kind of blind trust of authority. And now we have a much more permissive culture, and there's this inherent distrust of authority. And you have what's really popular right now are people who basically boast about how they've deconstructed their faith, and they're ex-evangelicals and kind of basically saying that I don't need that authority, and I am my own authority. And I think that's, I think deconstructing and looking at your faith is absolutely the center of discipleship. And I think that's great. And I think, definitely challenging things like evangelicalism, especially when they're doing abusive things and oppressive things, that's great too. But you can have two people who appear to be doing the same thing for very different reasons. And if you are assessing your faith, and if you are questioning your allegiance to evangelicalism because of the nature of the faith, or because of the nature of the conduct of evangelicals, I think that's a good thing. If you're doing those things just because you have this inherent distrust and dislike of authority, that's not a good thing. And I worry that a lot of people are doing it for the latter reason than the former. And so, but this is where that stuff like this can help,
Yeah. So in regards to the authority piece that you were just talking about, I have been actually thinking through that because, I'm a parent of 4, let's just call them Gen Zers, really. I am. Yeah. And I'm not just talking about them. I'm talking about like their people group, their community, their, a lot of, not all, but a lot of young people in that category are just what you said. Like, whereas many of us grew up with like this, assumed trust of authority and this assumed respect for authority, they are like, no, you need to show me why I need to respect you. And it's very fascinating. I think part of it is because, and so we're working through that, like, and there's nuance to that, because a lot of it is in response to, it's the pendulum swing of what many of us came out of just this ultimate, like, trust of authority, almost not thinking for ourselves, like you were saying, and the abuse that came with that. And so as that has been uncovered, and it's been ugly, and it's been really gross and really sad, I think there is a generation of people that are like, I'm not going to be putting myself in that situation just because you are / over me, older than me, supposedly a supervisor, but like, they're just not about it. But I think, like I said, I think there's nuance. And like you said, we have to kind of work through some of that, because we can't just forsake all authority, like, I mean, I think we have to hold it in balance, and it can be really healthy. And the second thing is that I was thinking of, both during your sermon, but also while you were just talking, is just the idea that what we perceive is so many times what we project. And so that's why I think it's so important. And that I love that you did talk about this picture of God and how it relates to parenting styles and stuff, because what we perceive, what we've experienced, is a lot of times, if we haven't like taken that to the Lord and allowed him to wash over it and reveal truth, and that is what we project on others. And so when I hear people talk about how they don't trust in God, or they don't want to follow a God who does A, B, C, D, E, F, G, I'm like, well, me either. So where are you getting that visual? Like, where is that your interpretation of who God is? Where is that coming from? Well, they've perceived something, and that's what they're projecting out. And so it's so important to like try to get those things in line.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's weird too, because it's a long process. It might even be just a lifelong asymptotic thing where we never actually get there. But I was just talking to Barbara and her mom this morning about how weird it is, because it's almost easier to get to know about Jesus than it is to get to know about ourselves, and to be able to detect when we're projecting ourselves. And it's so weird though, because like everything that has shaped us as a person and who we are today, well, we were a witness to it all. And yet it's still a mystery to us when we get to the current moment. And it's, we stand before ourselves as just totally baffled about ourselves. And but like models like this, I think can really help as well. It's interesting. You were saying about your kids and their assumption about authority, where they don't assume allegiance or submission to authority. And I remember counseling a kid whose parents were just beside themselves because their kid just showed us no respect. He shows us no respect. He shows us no respect. He doesn't respect us. They just kept using that word. And it's like, you respect is like, it's something that you can't just turn on and off. I mean, it is kind of earned. And so I think that, I think what they wanted is benefit of the doubt, or like some inherent trust, but trust is another one where, if you abuse a trust, you have to earn it back. It can't, there's nothing, you can't just tell someone to trust you. They have to, it's an evidence-based sort of process. And And so and this might be the permissive side of me again, thinking, and this is where it's, no matter what it is, it's like these types of things can affect it. Even in this conversation now, I have this inherent distrust of authority as well. And I was born too soon. I'm a Gen Zer, I guess.
You're ahead of your time.
I guess so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, like you said in your sermon, you said you used the line that many parents have used, because I said so. And what I have found, well, first of all, that's just not the way I speak to my kids or have. Good. Like it's not a because I said so thing. What I do know is that for many young people, and Dan, because he is the trailblazer, because I said so is not good enough. It's just not. Like there has to be something behind it. And so, it's just really fascinating. Again, not enough time to delve into it all, but really important to kind of be the detective, right? Like you told us, we need to consistently be the detective and be marveled at ourselves and allow ourselves to be revealed to ourselves by the help of the Holy Spirit. Mm-hmm. Because it is we forever need to be learning and growing and processing. I think that's my bow. That's my nugget. Like we forever need to be in that detection process and allowing God to reveal things to us so that we are not walking around blindly. That's my haphazard nugget.
That's well said. Is it nugget time?
Yeah, it's nugget time. Okay. It's nugget time.
Yeah, I think my nugget will be a reiteration a little bit, but I guess what I would say is that, especially in such a heated time right now where ideology is there's so many ideological hot buttons, and, there's so many issues and debated issues and this side or that side and us versus them. And I guess what I would encourage people to do is, as you process these issues, if they're important to you, just make sure that you are also considering your own self in that, because what I have found is that permissive people, tend to have certain ideological leanings, and people from authoritarian backgrounds have other, inherent kind of ideological leanings, but they don't talk about that. They talk about the issue as if it's just obviously true or false based on and they don't say, I come from a family where I never got to make decisions and I had to trust authority and they made all the decisions for me, or whatever that people, and those are the important issues, because you get down at that level. And I think that ends up shaping our beliefs a lot more than we give it credit for. And it doesn't matter about, and I'm not even saying this so that we can win a debate or anything like that. Right. It's really just so that we can be good stewards and good pursuers of the truth, where we can kind of get outside of ourselves a little bit more so that we can better find truth and find God.
I like it. Let's all be good stewards and good pursuers of the truth as we close out 2021 and head into 2022.
Right.
It's only going to get better, right?
That's right.
It has to get better.
That's right.
Dan, thank you. I know you put a lot of work into that. I know this has been a long, this is like you said, what you went to school for. And of course you have other giftings and all, and you did move into some theology as well. But like I said, I love it when this hat gets put on your head and we get to learn from you in this way. So thank you for the work that you did for that and joining us today. Thank you all. We will catch you next week. So like Dan said, we have a new series starting this Sunday. We hope you'll join us for that. It's going to be great. And then circle back with us on Tuesday. Dan's going to be in a different location. So it'll be a fun, where's Dan every week, right?
It'll be the same location, but a different location. So
okay.
So we'll
same
be down
location, but different. Yes.
That's right. Yeah. A little sunnier.
You'll be, a little sunnier. Awesome. Well, safe travels. Have a great week, you guys. Enjoy the rest of this year, and we will catch you next year.
Yep.
Take care.